Welcome to the card, little shop of harbor. Let it like a period after the arbor.
No, still 1600. No, still 1600. Still a one for these niggas from the gutter.
They want to smoke cat. We talking about
Fair exchange, ain't no robbery. Everything's legal, baby. Everything's legal. A picture of perfection.
Perfect.
Tupac, All Eyez On Me. All Eyez On Me was the last studio album that Tupac released when he was alive and remains one of hip-hop's defining double albums. Before settling on that title, Tupac experimented with several working names, including When I Get Free, Supreme Euthanasia, and Euthanasia. These early versions were conceptualized while he was still in prison, with track lists and notes that can be found online. Original track list for All Eyez On Me can be found online as well, and a few of these early drafts include tracks that never made it to the official release. One is My Baby's Mama, featuring Gaddafi of the Outlaws, and was produced by Johnny J. Although the song remains unreleased, its instrumental and handwritten lyrics have leaked online, giving fans a glimpse of what might have been. Some speculate the master recording for the song was lost in the 2008 Universal Studios fire, though this remains unconfirmed. Other songs like Can't Fade Me, To My Unborn, and Fair Exchange were also intended for All Eyez On Me, but were later reworked and released on posthumous projects such as Until the End of Time and Better Days.
Ever since my birth, I've been cursed since I'm born to wild. In case I never get to holler at my unborn child. Many things learned in prison. Fair exchange, ain't no robbery.
Late Night, produced by DJ Quick and featuring the Outlaws, was originally planned for the album as well. According to DJ Quick, the song was cut due to sample clearance issues, but it eventually appeared on the compilation album Still Smokin', Chronic 2000, and Better Days.
I'm barely standing and plus my second hand say it's midnight. Some Alizé and Cristal guaranteed to get right.
As I stated, there are numerous drafts of All Eyez On Me. I won't go over every single one, but this is just a glimpse into the songs that were once considered for the album. I have a whole video breaking down the entire All Eyez On Me album, along with detailing other leftover tracks from the All Eyez On Me sessions. Kanye West, The College Dropout.
Your hop is 40 grand if you ain't fam. I mean, if you ain't Hove, if you ain't Cam, damn.
In 2016, longtime collaborator and friend of Kanye, Consequence, shared a handwritten version of The College Dropout's original track list from circa 2003, giving fans a rare glimpse into Kanye's early plans. The original version included several early versions and unreleased songs that were later reshaped or moved to other projects. For instance, Drug Dealin', which featured GLC and Keisha Cole, was the demo version of We Don't Care.
Some of them dyslexic, they favor 50 cents on 12 questions. We scream box blows, we part.
Tracks like All Falls Down, Jesus Walks, and Two Words survived the transition to the final album, but others like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly were cut, eventually landing on Kanye's mixtapes and later on Consequence's debut album, Don't Quit Your Day Job.
Bad, the ugly, and this is for the hood. You got to love me. Good morning, I don't remember your name.
Songs such as My Way and Heavy Hitters appeared on early mixtapes like Get Well Soon and I'm Good, with the latter even ending up as a Japanese bonus track for the album.
It go my way, shy way, this way or the highway. Shots that lay you off when your day off like Friday. Heavy hitters, full life. Rockefeller, it's full life.
After this, we have the final 4 tracks of the original track list. Out of these 4, Family Business, Through the Wire, and Never Let Me Down made the final version of the album. Hey Mama, originally planned for the College Dropout, was held back and famously released later on late registration. The bonus section of the early track list was also packed with gems. Champions, a triumphant posse cut, appeared on the Paid in Full soundtrack.
Came in the game, changing the game, change straight from game, yeah. If you're feeling this here, then your fucking hands in the air.
Keep the Receipt follows, and this is a song that appears on Kanye's 2004 mixtape, Con the Louis Vuitton Don, but never managed to make the track list of one of his albums. Home is the original version of the song Homecoming, which later appeared on Kanye's 2007 album, Graduation.
I'll be coming home when I get there.
Last but not least, we have 18 Years, which is an earlier version of the song Gold Digger, which appears on late registration. The crazy thing is that the College Dropout would have been a classic either way, whether it was the original version or what we have today. Nas, I Am.
So many kids I knew never knew who Pop was. That's why I show my Pop love, cause he was still around when I popped up.
In 1998, following the massive success of It Was Written, Nas began crafting a double album originally titled I Am, the Autobiography. The project was meant to tell his life story in cinematic detail, with the first disc chronicling his journey from birth to self-deletion, and the second exploring his spiritual afterlife. Unfortunately, Nas and Columbia Records, his label at the time, opted to scrap the double disc release and the overall concept. Nas wouldn't revisit the double disc concept for an album until 2004 when he released Street's Disciple. In early 1999, months before I Am was set to drop, 13 songs from the album leaked online, making it one of the first major label projects to be widely pirated in the MP3 era. The leak forced Nas to delay the release, cut songs, and rebuild the track list.
Unknown as we travel on this road, an infinite path. I get into this math, drop it, get intense for the cash. Chose for me, bloodstream full of endo, developing eyes, 9-month process, infant size.
From what I've gathered, most of, if not all of the leaked tracks and tracks intended for the double album were repurposed. They either ended up on the official version of I Am, Nostradamus, The Lost Tapes, or other projects from Nas. One song that really stands out to me is Daydreamin', Stay Schemin'.
But you never do. Stay scheming.
In 2023, I Am, the Autobiography, released commercially for the first time on vinyl as part of a Black Friday event. The vinyl included 2 unreleased tracks and other rarities that had been on limited vinyl and 12-inch previously. It also contained special edition deluxe packaging with only 4,100 copies made available. Lil Wayne, The Carter 3.
Sorry for the trouble that I put you in your heart through. God knows that I do anything for a part 2.
The original version of Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 was mostly recorded between 2006 and 2007, during the peak of his mixtape and feature run that cemented him as the hottest rapper alive. However, in June of 2007, a massive leak of Lil Wayne's music derailed the initial plans for the project. A well-known DJ named The Empire put out The Drought Is Over 2, The Carter 3 sessions. Many of the tracks on the mixtape were made during the early sessions of the album.
And I'm just lighting up my
Wayne publicly denied knowing the Empire, but the DJ claimed that they had spoken and that the leaks came from someone within Lil Wayne's own camp. The massive leak forced Lil Wayne to rework and reshape the album. Despite delays and setbacks, the Carter 3 would go on to become one of the most anticipated and successful rap albums ever. Some additional information about the Carter 3 is that Playing with Fire was originally the 14th track on the album before being removed.
If I set this stage on fire.
This song was removed due to a lawsuit and replaced by Monster, which was produced by David Banner. Only the first 2.3 million copies of the album include this song. Another unreleased track titled Eat You Alive was intended for the Carter 3 and later tied to a scrapped project called the Carter 3 The Rebirth.
Welcome to the card, little shop of harbor. Level like a period after the arbor.
The last thing I want to mention about C3 is that Corey Gunz, Lil Mama, Tyga, and Hurricane Chris were all originally supposed to have their own versions of a Milli on the Carter 3 as separate interludes, but this ultimately never happened as well. This concept was later revisited on the Carter 4 with another beat on the intro, interlude, and outro. Lupe Fiasco, Lasers. The original version of Lupe Fiasco's album Lasers was very different from the project fans eventually heard in 2011. After the Cool, Lupe planned to release a triple disc album titled Loopend, which would fulfill his contract with Atlantic Records and serve as his final project. However, Atlantic canned this idea, something that Lupe later confirmed in 2022. He then began working on the Great American Rap album, but that would not drop until a year after Lasers. The process of creating Lasers took a toll on Lupe, who described it as mentally destructive and said that label pressure left him depressed and frustrated. Originally, Lasers was meant to continue Lupe's politically conscious conceptual style, but Atlantic pushed for radio-friendly, pop-oriented songs to ensure commercial success. The label saw the Cool as a disappointment, despite its gold certification and, at the time, platinum single Superstar. If you're watching this video, there's a good enough chance you've heard the B.O.B. song Airplanes before. Well, this was originally Lupe's song, as it was intended for Lasers.
Wishes that the world could see from the position of my girl and me, from the perspective of
B.O.B. was also initially on the song with him rapping the second verse, but the label liked B.O.B.'s verse more. It aligned with what they were looking for, so Lupe gave it to him, and the song ended up being a massive success. The same thing goes for the track Nothing on You. This is another song that was originally Lupe's before he gave it to B.O.B.
you, what the news, you're my satellite, the YouTube, tell her.
The backstory of this song is really sad because Craig Kallman, the chairman of Atlantic at the time, reportedly told Lupe that his verse and performance on Nothing on You was whack. In an interview with The Guardian, Lupe refers to this as the tipping point and when he got super depressed and thought about self-deletion. Now we're about to get into some of the songs that did not make the cut for the album, with the first one being Stereo Sun. Allegedly, Atlantic refused for the song to make the final version of Lasers. Instead, the song was given to UK rapper, I think it's Tiny Strider, I don't know, for his album Third Strike.
I hear it, the spirit, and I don't fear it.
The last song I wanted to discuss is Who Are You Now? This is an uncompleted collaboration between Lupe and B.O.B.
Every day you change, style, your clothes, your name.
As I explained earlier, the build up to Lasers is a story in itself. Lupe was really going through a lot with Atlantic and his fans protesting outside of their offices for the release of the album. I know that the reviews for Lasers aren't the best, but if people knew the story behind the making of the album along with what it originally could have been, they'll maybe have a different perspective. 50 Cent, The Massacre. In 2005, 50 Cent was still on top following the massive success of Get Rich or Die Trying, which sold 872,000 copies in its first week and is now certified 9 times platinum. After spending 2 years building up G-Unit, 50 Cent started to craft his second album, The Massacre. Originally, The Massacre was meant to focus on imperfections, with an example being the song Hate It or Love It. Around the time when 50 Cent was making the album, The Game came into the picture. He was signed to Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment label, and industry figures like Jimmy Iovine thought placing him in G-Unit would strengthen their West Coast presence. 50 Cent played a key role in shaping The Game's debut album, The Documentary. He appeared on the first 3 singles, along with contributing to songs like Special and Higher. A reference track of Higher actually exists and can be found online.
Get the jumping, we get to tearing up the spot. Okay, let's play my way, shorty. I say take it off.
50 originally planned to release The Massacre in February of 2005, but Interscope delayed it to prioritize The Game's album that released in January. This completely ruined the initial title and concept of the album with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, since it would no longer be released in February around the holiday. While The Massacre went on to be a huge success, it remains a very divisive album amongst 50 Cent fans. Some, like me, consider the album a classic, while others feel that it pales in comparison to Get Rich or Die Trying. One can imagine how differently The Massacre would have been looked at if 50 Cent kept the original concept for it and delivered more personal songs instead of sexual tracks like Candy Shop and Just a Little Bit. It's also crazy to think how different the album would have been if 50 Cent kept songs like How We Do and Hate It or Love It instead of giving them away to The Game. Inspectah Deck, Uncontrolled Substance. Inspectah Deck's debut album finally dropped in 1999, but it was originally supposed to be released in 1995. The early version was very different from what fans eventually heard. The concept for the original album was heavily inspired by Spider-Man, tying into comic book themes that Wu-Tang members often adopted. Many fans and even RZA himself have said that Deck's original vision for Uncontrollable Substance would have stood right beside Liquid Swords and Only Built for Cuban Links as one of the group's best solo albums. Sadly, the original version of the album was destroyed in the infamous studio floods that plagued the Wu-Tang Clan in the mid-90s. According to RZA, he lost hundreds of beats and songs, and Inspectah Deck took the worst of the hit. When RZA told him the news, Deck was reportedly devastated. After losing everything, Inspectah Deck tried to recreate the magic of his debut album from scratch. He reused some of his old lyrics and attempted to rebuild the beats, but the feeling just wasn't the same. Back then, music was stored on floppy disks, and many of them with Deck's music were soaked by the flood. He even spent over $15,000 trying to restore them at a computer repair store, but to no avail. Despite the massive setback, Inspectah Deck released in 1999. though fans continue to wonder how legendary the original 1995 version could have been. Ghostface Killah, Bulletproof Wallet. Bulletproof Wallet is the third album from Ghostface Killah, released in October of 2001. Many fans believe Ghostface was close to achieving a three-peat of classic albums after Iron Man and Supreme Clientele, but Bulletproof Wallet fell short. Originally, Ghostface Killah turned in the project to Epic Records in early 2001, and it was said to be a strong follow-up to his first two albums. However, the label changed the track list and removed multiple key songs, including The Sun.
Out the grass and smile when it's morning time. Last night I wrote 3 rhymes. I woke up to see the sunshine.
Ghost later said that RZA could not find the sample loop after getting high, which led to it being dropped. Other standout cuts like The Watch and Good Times were also removed, the former due to Barry White denying the sample clearance for I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little More, Baby.
Rock your 5 in your slippers like the mother 5 guys in your picture. Come on, watch, I'm the star of the show, so bloated.
These tracks were later released on Ghostface's 2007 compilation Hidden Darts Special Edition, alongside other rare and unreleased material. The official version of Bulletproof Wallets also featured altered songs such as Flowers, which had its sample changed from the original version, but I personally prefer the original.
See me in the club, got a gun on my leg, select paper and invade, all the illest niggas tally up, pay, yo, live crew meeting.
An earlier version of the album even received an impressive 4.5 mic rating from The Source, but once it was released, reviews were mixed to say the least. Playboi Carti, Whole Lotta Red.
We in Cancun, hitting on it, and I know it does, hitting on this.
Whole Lotta Red is Playboi Carti's second studio album, released in December of 2020. The project was first announced in 2018 after his debut album Die Lit, but fans would have to wait 2 years and hear countless leaks before it finally dropped. Depending on who you ask, there are 3 or 4 distinct eras of the album, or versions. Each represent a different creative phase. Version 1, or V1, was largely produced by Pierre Bourne, who crafted much of Carti's signature sound on Die Lit. This early version included fan favorite leaks like Molly, RPMs, Choppa Go, and Cancun.
Too many thoughts, me and my brother, too much boy, me and my brother.
By V2, however, Carti began experimenting heavily with his baby voice and a more chaotic, distorted sound. Producers like Richie Souf, Jetson Maid, Brandon Finessin, and Rourke Bailey were key to this era.
And I take heads up, I got some new cat, I got some new swag, I got some new pet.
V3 consisted of songs recorded around the time of the final sessions, after the passing of Carti's close friend, Big Sosa, and V4 became the official Whole Lotta Red that we know today, which is more punk-inspired. When the album finally dropped, fans were initially divided, noting how producers like Pierre and Richie Souf had a smaller role compared to earlier versions of the album. Some leaks from earlier iterations of the album, like Place and Neon, made the final cut, but served as a reminder for what the album initially could have been. Let me know down in the comments which version or era of the album you like the best. Lil Uzi Vert, Eternal Atake.
Yeah. No still 1600. Now still 1600.
Eternal Atake is the sophomore album of Lil Uzi Vert, which was released in March of 2020. The album was first announced in 2018, but just like Whole Lotta Red, the album took 2 years to be released. Leaks and label issues are two of the main reasons why the album was delayed. The original version of Eternal Atake is said to have contained songs like Of Course, Zoom, Kobe, and 1600. Mission to the Loot is without a doubt my favorite song.
I was on a mission to the loot. Getting money really changed my mood.
Aside from the music, the original cover art was also different. It took inspiration from the Heaven's Gate cult. The cult is responsible for one of the largest mass deletions in the United States, with 39 members leaving this earth in March of 1997. For a time, Uzi also had his profile picture on Instagram as Marshall Applewhite, the leader of the cult. Luckily, a lot of the songs from the OG version of Eternal Atake were released on the album, The Eternal Atake Deluxe, or other projects. Though Eternal Atake went on to be successful, one can imagine how different Uzi's career could have been if he dropped the original version of the album in 2018 or 2019. Mobb Deep, The Infamous.
The most violent of the violent is crimes we give life to. If these Queensbridge kids don't like you.
The original version of Mobb Deep's The Infamous was a very different project than the classic 1995 album fans know today. After their 1993 debut album Juvenile Hell flopped commercially, they were dropped from their label 4th and Broadway Records. Being dropped from the label and the success of Illmatic from fellow Queens rapper Nas lit a fire within the duo. This fire fueled the creation of what we know today as The Infamous. The early version of The Infamous leaned heavily on a raw, aggressive sound with less polished production. A year before The Infamous was released, a demo tape of the album started circulating. This demo tape is essentially the nucleus of their sophomore album.
We about to get into this real. You can never understand the mind state. My goal is to increase the crime rate.
While Havoc produced almost the entire album, Q-Tip ended up doing a lot of work, with some of it going uncredited. Trife Life, Up North Trip, and Survival of the Fittest are some songs that he did work on that he did not get properly credited for. For these specific tracks, he improved the drum programming. You can hear the differences in production on multiple songs.
We done took. You walking with your head down, scared to look. Cause ain't no such things as halfway crooks. As time goes by, an eye for an eye. We in this together, son, your beef is mine.
Let me know down in the comments which version of the album you prefer. If you want to know more about the original version and history of the entire album, I did a video a while back detailing everything. Eminem, Encore.
The more you put me through, the more it makes me wanna come back to you.
Encore is widely regarded as one of Eminem's weakest albums. Childish humor, lackluster production, and uneven quality are some critiques fans have about Encore. Originally, Encore was planned to have a much darker and more serious tone, a natural continuation of the Eminem Show. However, the album's direction completely changed after several unfinished songs leaked in 2003. According to reports, the leaks came from a friend of Eminem's younger brother, Nate Mathers, who found a CD of unreleased tracks at Eminem's house and shared it online. Songs like We As Americans and I Love You More were among the leaked material and were later added as bonus tracks on the official Encore album.
We as Americans, us as a citizen, gotta protect ourselves. Look at our shit has been.
Another notable leak was Bully, a diss track aimed at Ja Rule and Benzino, both of whom Eminem was feuding with at the time.
I'll be damned if I don't stand up to a bully. Fight like a man and throw my hands up to a bully.
In an interview with XXL, Eminem explained that the original track list was supposed to start with We as Americans, Bully, and then Evil Deeds. Unfortunately, with so much of his material already leaked, Eminem decided to create new songs to fill the gaps. But during this period, he was struggling heavily with his drug addiction and his creative mindset was not the same. As a result, many of the replacement songs like Ass Like That, Big Weenie, and Rain Man leaned into his goofy side and lacked the depth that fans had come to expect. When Encore finally dropped, the reception was mixed to negative, with many seeing it as a disappointing follow-up to his previous classics. In hindsight, it marked the beginning of a turbulent era in Eminem's career and showed how leaks and personal struggles can completely derail an artist's original vision. Snoop Dogg, Doggystyle. Snoop Dogg's debut album Doggystyle went through several changes before its release, and many songs from the original sessions did not make the cut. One of the most notable is Doggystyle featuring George Clinton and Jewel. It was rumored to be the album's original intro, but was cut due to sample clearance issues and the rushed production timeline. The track later surfaced on Death Row The Lost Sessions Volume 1 in 2009.
It's Doggystyle, baby. Doggystyle.
Another song from the Doggystyle sessions is Eat a D. This also appeared on the Death Row The Lost Volume 1 compilation. Interestingly, parts of Snoop Dogg's first verse from that song were later reused for Doggy Dogg World, and some of the beat elements ended up on Serial Killer, both of which appear on Doggystyle.
A contraceptive, I hope you get burnt. Seems you haven't learned, it's the knick-knack, paddywhack. I still got the biggest sack.
During an interview with Rolling Stone in 1993, before the release of Doggystyle, Snoop Dogg mentioned potentially naming a song that was playing Eat a D, but I'm not 100% sure if this was the song that he was talking about. Nonetheless, there was also supposed to be a song titled The Next Episode, which was listed on early retailer track lists before the album's release, but ultimately got left off. Some sources say it was removed because of an uncleared sample, while others claim it simply could not be mixed and mastered in time. This is a completely different song from The Next Episode that released years later.
We still looking up, so goes to a pose, we'll get smacked up nicely by the smooth macadamia and you wrongly sexy.
Another major omission was G's Up, which only appeared on the first 100,000 copies of Doggystyle before being pulled due to issues clearing the Isaac Hayes sample, The Look of Love.
Ladies and gents, players and pimps, listen.
The song wouldn't be on streaming services for years until the album's 30th anniversary in 2023. Isaac Hayes' son clarified that the original sample issue was not his father's fault, but rather label politics. If you'd like to know more about Doggystyle and some of the other songs from the sessions for the album, I did a whole video breaking everything down that you should go watch. Clipse, Hell Hath No Fury. The original version of Hell Hath No Fury by the Clipse was a very different album from the one released in 2006. After touring for Lord Willin', the duo began working on the album in 2003, with Pusha T describing the early version as more lighthearted. However, in 2004, label restructuring left the Clipse stuck on Jive Records while the Star Trak label moved to Interscope. This sparked a legal battle as the group sued to get out of their contract. Eventually, a deal was reached, allowing Jive to distribute releases from the group's own Re-Up Gang label. During this period, the Clipse dropped their We Got It For Cheap mixtape series, which built major underground buzz. After multiple delays, the group scrapped their original version of Hell Hath No Fury because it no longer represented where they were at mentally or creatively. The final version turned out much darker and less radio friendly, as seen with songs like Mr. Me Too, which they viewed as a disruption to mainstream rap. To hear what the early album might have sounded like, fans often point to the song Pussy, which some believe was once meant to be a single before things went awry with their label.
Why I say that? The cat slipping, the max spitting, the cat dripping. Look in the mirror, use a fat kitten.
The song later appeared on the Barbershop 2 Back in Business soundtrack in 2004. Despite the turmoil and lack of chart success, Hell Hath No Fury is now regarded as a hip-hop classic, a raw, unfiltered reflection of the Clipse's struggles and artistic integrity. Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links, Part 2.
Cream vanquish, my queen keeps it stainless. Cracks in Brussels, screwing everything famous.
In 2005, Raekwon announced a sequel to Only Built for Cuban Links 10 years after the original's release. Busta Rhymes was set to executive produce, and in 2006, Raekwon reportedly signed with Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment label, where Busta Rhymes was also signed. Raekwon later emphasized that this was only a verbal agreement between him and the label. Initially, Dr. Dre was only going to produce a few tracks, but the project grew as him and Raekwon worked together, with the 2007 release planned, which never happened. By 2009, Busta Rhymes left Aftermath, and Raekwon explained that his situation with Dr. Dre fell apart because Dr. Dre was too busy. This is because Dr. Dre was most likely working on Detox, which remains one of the greatest albums that will never be released. Raekwon felt that if Dr. Dre could not make time to check in on his music, the project was not a priority. In the end, Dr. Dre only produced 2 songs for the album, Catalina and About Me. This gives us insight into how the album could have sounded like if Dr. Dre was more involved as originally planned.
Hey yo, I grew up on the foul side, nickel bag, valve side, purple tops, 2 for 5s. I was back to business, making them discs, pushing 6s, rocking wild animals on jackets is sickening, hear me?
After years of delays, leaks, and tracklist changes, Only Built for Cuban Links Part 2 was finally released in September of 2009. It marked as a major comeback for Raekwon after the Lex Diamond story underperformed and was widely praised as a return to form for Raekwon. Several songs did not make the final cut. Criminology 09, a sequel to the original Criminology, was left off but later appeared on Wu Massacre with Raekwon's verse replaced by Method Man.
First of all, black pocket, guns be sparking, hit you in the back of your dome from far kid.
State of Grace, which I played at the beginning, was another track that was considered for the album, but it got leaked. There's speculation that another song from this era named Baggage Handlers was considered before it was leaked, leading to its removal.
Now rap, what's the movement? Superman money in the U building, a few dudes who make a lot of rules saying you get it.
Though this track did not make it to the sequel of Only Built for Cuban Links, it was included on Raekwon's first Vatican mixtape. Just like that, we come to the end of this video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below and what you guys would like to see me cover in the next video. As always, I love you guys with all my heart. Peace.